Hello guys, namaste, welcome back to my channel. And hi, how you guys doing? Were you guys productive? Because someone wasn't. Anyways, for the ones who are new here, hi, this is Amisha Singh Chauhan, and if you're looking for something fun, dark and mysterious, then you're at the right place. So do not forget to hit that bell icon and subscribe to my channel so that every time I'm here, you'll get to know about it. So, like y'all can read from the title, today we're gonna talk about an unsolved murder mystery. Well, before we start with that, don't worry, just give me a sec. A side note for you all. So today I'm gonna do something very different. I always wanted to do this. I wanted to start my channel with this, but I thought maybe I should start with something simple. So yeah, you guys want to know what I want to do? I want to do my makeup and talk about murder. Like two beautiful combinations, don't you guys think? I know it's crazy, but come on, I'm crazy too. And if I don't do something crazy, it's not me, right? And I have to be me in front of camera, like so many of you have said. By the way, this is not a makeup tutorial. I'm not going to talk about makeup. So you guys who don't like makeup, don't worry. I'm not going to go all blushy and stuff like that. And if you guys are interested to know what products I am using, so I'll put the list in the description box. You can check it out. So I'm just going to zip my makeup mouth up and let's start. So today we're going to talk about unsolved murder mystery of JonBenét Ramsey. And no, she is nowhere related to Gordon Ramsay. And frankly speaking, you guys, like when I was doing my research, I would literally salivate every time I heard that surname, like Pavlov's dog or, Dwight. Anyways, no more office, no more psychology. So JonBenét Ramsey, who was she? Well, she was a 6-year-old girl when this incident happened, and this incident took place on 26th of December. I won't say 26th of December exactly, more like 25th and 26th of December. We don't know the details. Not only me, nobody knows the details actually. So yeah, 25th or 26th of December of 1996, and yeah, she was only 6 years old then. This family of Ramseys, it had a father, John Ramsey, then the mother, Patricia Ramsey, and a 9-year-old brother, then Burke Ramsey. So it was a normal Christmas Eve for the Ramseys. They went to exchange gifts with their friends and they came back home, they went to the bed and everything was normal, like a typical Christmas Eve. So then what happened exactly was on 26th of December's early morning, Patricia Ramsey called 911. And by the way, they were resident of Boulder, Colorado. So yeah, Patricia Ramsey, also known as Patsy, she calls 911 and reports that her daughter is missing from their house, from her bedroom itself. And she also informs them that they found a ransom note on the staircase and tells them that in the note they said that they would call between 8 o'clock to 10 a.m. in the morning to tell them about, where to drop the money. And by the way, they were asking for $118,000. I know it was a very specific figure, but I will cover that thing later. So yeah, according to the note, they were supposed to call between 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on 26th December's morning. So a police officer is sent at 8:10 a.m. to monitor the phone call. Now, there are very confusing details as to was a parole officer sent before this police officer was sent around 8 o'clock to check the residences. Some say yes, some say no. So I don't know about it. Okay. So supposedly this police officer is sent. She is supposed to monitor the phone call from the kidnapper, and there she finds that it's not only the Ramseys in their house but also family and friends. I mean, that is a lot of contamination of crime scene, right? So anyway, like you'll find it in the entire story that everyone was playing with the evidence like it was some sort of toy. And maybe that's why this case is unsolved. Like even after more than 20 years, it's still unsolved. So yeah, there were a lot of people out there in the house. There was one police officer and they were waiting for the phone call. And they didn't receive any phone call till 1 o'clock in the morning. So they don't receive any phone call, period that. So everyone was worried. There was lot of tension in the house. There was no phone call. They were supposed to receive a phone call, but it wasn't there. So now the police officer, in her defense, said that so as to break the tension, she asked the father, that is John Ramsey, and one of his friend, Mr. White, to go around the house and look for if they could find anything suspicious. Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Why would you ask the father, as in the victim's father, to go around the house? Like, isn't it supposed to be a police officer or government investigator's job to do that? But then, what can we say? Carelessness. Okay, so she asks them to go around the house, and within 2 minutes of that, she hears the friends scream for an ambulance, and she's like, oh my god, what's happened? She runs towards the voice which was coming from the basement, and there she sees John Ramsey holding his daughter's dead body and climbing the last steps of the basement. And by the way, I forgot to tell you the part that she specifically told them to not touch anything if they found was out of its place or suspicious or that could have been an evidence. But there was John Ramsey holding his daughter's dead body. So contamination again. So I think it's pretty obvious that if a father sees his daughter's dead body, he would obviously go and, hold her. But he should have thought that he was practically contaminating and, he created an obstacle, a big hurdle in finding out the real culprit behind it. So anyways, the police officer, as soon as she sees that the father is holding the dead body, she asks him to drop the body down, like on the floor, put her down on the floor, and immediately he does another thing. He covers the body with a blanket. He is contaminating the evidence, the dead body, again and again, and I don't know why he's doing it. Like, you'll find it suspicious when I move ahead with the story. So yeah, he is done everything, and in next 15 minutes, an ambulance arrives with the rest of the police department. They take the dead body to get the autopsy done. Now, they find 3 specific things in the autopsy. The first thing being, they find out that her head was fractured, like severely fractured, and it was 8.5 inches long. Like, my hand is barely 8 inches, and imagine that poor 6-year-old's head. I mean, okay, I don't want to go into much graphical details. There are a lot of pictures, and I would probably put them anywhere over here in the screen, but again I have to check it because some of them might be really triggering. So that was the first thing they found. The second thing they found in the autopsy was the cause of death, which was strangulation, and there was another term used, but I'm not even gonna try to use that word. It is very, that's too much of English for me. So yeah, she was strangulated with the help of a garrote, and at the end of the garrote, they used her mother's paintbrush. I don't know why. I mean, were they trying to prove something? Was it their special touch? I mean, it's weird. Like, I don't know why was there a paintbrush tied. And the third thing they found in the autopsy was that she had vaginal injuries. And when I say vaginal injury, it doesn't mean that she was raped, because they couldn't find any, substance. You know what I'm saying, right? But her vagina had a lot of injuries. And on further investigation, they found out that it wasn't the first time. Like, boom. And the family denied it. Like, they completely denied it. Well, someone was lying. Someone, maybe the autopsy report or the parents. So, I mean, that was all what happened on 26th of December. And the question is, who did it? So there were 2 theories as to who killed JonBenét Ramsey. The first one was pretty obvious that it was an outsider, a pedophile, an intruder. And the second theory is that it was the family. So now you'll ask me, why the family? Like, why do people or the police investigators of Boulder, Colorado, suspected that it was the family who killed JonBenét Ramsey? Well, the first thing and the prime reason behind the suspicion was the ransom note, or maybe I should call it as a letter, because it was 2.5 pages long. Like, yeah, I'm not kidding. I've read the letter word to word and it is 2.5 pages long. Like, what even? Like, this kidnapper had so much time in the world and so much guts of not being caught. Anyways, so why do people think it was the letter which gave out the Ramseys? Was because, first things first, the paper used to write that letter and the pen was from Patricia Ramsey's study. They could find the notebook and the pen used to write that ransom note, and even the forensics proved it. Okay, imagine the case, okay? Get me this. The kidnappers, the murderers, the sexual assaulters, whatever you want to call them, I'll call them pricks. Yeah, so these people or this person decides to kidnap JonBenét Ramsey. And what he does is he enters the house, goes to the study, finds a notebook and a pen, writes down the letter. Okay, that is still acceptable, a bit digestible, I would say, but you haven't heard the rest of it. The letter was not the only one written. There was a practice letter as well. So this kidnapper, this person, not only wrote a 2.5 pages letter, but he wrote it twice. He practiced it and then copied it fairly. So he must be like, my handwriting's not good. I'm making a lot of spelling mistakes. Let me write it again. So that was the first thing. Like, it was weird. It doesn't make any sense, but okay, fine, happened. The second thing was, there were a lot of things in the letter which did not make sense more than what the previous thing was. Like, they were giving a lot of details and they were like, oh my god, we're this small group of people. We love you, John Ramsey. We love you a lot. We love what you're doing, but we don't like the part that you're serving this country. So why would this group of people, supposedly a gang, would give information about them? Also, if you'll read the letter, you will notice that they want to show that English is not our first language, but then they are using words like attaché, but they are misspelling business. Well, someone was trying really hard. So I'm so sorry about the dogs. I cannot, ask them to shut up. I could ask my sister, but even that doesn't work. So the investigators, they also ran a couple of tests to match the handwritings of the Ramseys, especially John and Patsy's, and they completely ruled out John Ramsey, but Patricia Ramsey wasn't ruled out, but wasn't ruled in as well. So she was somewhere in the middle, like, there is a very good possibility. Also, the handwriting analyzers, they found that the handwriting, it looked like someone was trying to, change their handwriting. I mean, I don't know. Again, the family is like, this police is completely targeting us. They're not even caring about, the intruder side of the theory. So let's move ahead. So the ransom letter was completely staged. It looked completely staged. And if you'll ask my opinion, I think it was staged too. Like, just go through the letter once, pause it for a second and you'll read it. You'll get to know. Another thing that led to people believing that it was the Ramseys was that the police came directly in front of the media and said that they couldn't find any proof of forced entry in the house or footprints around the house. So it was Colorado, Christmas time. It gotta be snowing a lot, right? And obviously they would find some footprints, but they didn't. Also, the police were very much in contact with the media, the newspaper, news channels. Though there was a broken window in the basement, but the Ramseys said that it was already broken like a long time ago and they didn't fix it. And yeah, that's the thing. So even for a second, as of now, if we believe that it was the family who did this, the next question comes is why and how. So there are two, again, sub-theories. The first one being that it was the mother, Patsy Ramsey, who killed her out of fit, as JonBenét Ramsey was a bedwetter. And she smashed her head on the bathroom sink and she thought that JonBenét is dead. And so as to cover up the entire thing, they staged that ransom note and, the strangulation and everything. That is one theory. It is fine, okay. For a second, I can believe it could happen, but then it's weird. I don't think so. Like, they were really, loving family. When Burke Ramsey was interrogated, the psychologist, as in there was a family therapist out there, and he said that the family looked quite, happy and healthy. So, okay, that was one sub-theory of family theory. The other thing was Burke Ramsey being the suspect. So, officially, Burke Ramsey was never a suspect, but a lot of internet detectives and people like you and me thought it could be Burke Ramsey. Now, you'll ask me why Burke Ramsey. So, in the autopsy, they found out undigested pineapple in JonBenét Ramsey's stomach, and they could also find a bowl of pineapple, chopped pineapple, on the kitchen top. So the bowl had DNA of Patricia Ramsey and Burke Ramsey, but not of JonBenét Ramsey. So now the theory comes out like JonBenét Ramsey took a couple of pineapple from Burke Ramsey's bowl, and which he didn't like it, so he smashed her head with a flashlight or a baseball bat. And when the Ramseys, as in the parents, when they got to know about it, they wanted to protect their only child that was still alive, and that's why this entire, drama and theatrics. But I don't know, I don't believe this one, frankly speaking, because the police never saw him as a suspect, and also he was only 9 years old. I mean, come on, it doesn't make any sense. People are cruel. So that was the family theory. Now comes the part that it was an intruder who did this. As we all know that JonBenét Ramsey was a very renowned, decorated child beauty pageant. So obviously she was exposed to pedophiles, right? And a lot of cases similar to this have happened where a pedophile attacks or molests a child beauty pageant. It could have been the same in this case, right? Well, we'll find it out if it actually was this thing. There were a lot of suspects when it came to outsider. There was also a detective, an ex-homicide expert hired, like he was employed again for this case specifically. So there are like 3 suspects that I'm going to talk about in specific today. So our first suspect is Bill Mcreynolds, and he lived in the same neighborhood as the Ramseys, and he was said to be very close to JonBenét Ramsey. Every year on Christmas, he would dress up as Santa Claus and, exchange gifts with the Ramsey kids. And JonBenét was very fond of him. So now, why would people suspect him? So the reason was that his wife had previously written a play in which a girl was molested in her own house's basement, and then later on she was killed. So, I mean, it's a lot of a coincidence. Also, his daughter herself was kidnapped 22 years ago from that day, like from that incident. But then again, they didn't have any proof. And when I say that they couldn't find any proof, I directly mean towards the DNA. So what exactly was the DNA case over here? They could find a lot of DNA samples on her body, but nothing too, that was popping out. Because obviously her body was contaminated, the entire crime scene was contaminated, the father held her, then dropped a blanket on her. So the forensic experts couldn't really pick out one DNA sample, except a DNA sample they could find in her underpants and on her leggings. All the suspects, their DNA were actually getting corresponded with this DNA they found in JonBenét Ramsey's underpants. And Bill Mcreynolds' DNA wouldn't match with this DNA in her underpants, so he was ruled out. Then comes another creature, another person. His name is Gary Oliva. So Gary Oliva was found with JonBenét Ramsey's picture in his backpack, and when he was asked as to why he was carrying her picture around, he said that this entire incident touched my heart and I wanted to respect her, so I wanted to make a shrine for her in her respect and things like that. And mind you guys, this is the same person who in future and past for us in 2016 was arrested for child pornography. So yeah. Now another thing, Gary Oliva's best friend did an interview where he said that on 26 December's evening, Gary Oliva calls him up and quote, "I hurt a young girl, I hurt a young girl," end quote. Yeah, like he literally called his friend and told him about how he hurt a young girl, and when the police investigated, they couldn't really find out any other girl in Boulder, Colorado who was hurt on 25th December or 26th of December. But then again, his DNA wouldn't match with the DNA they found in her underpants. So even he was shelved. Like, okay, tata bye-bye from the suspect list. Now, the next suspect, the third suspect we're going to talk about, he came into the picture 10 years, roughly 10 years from that incident, like from 26 December 1996. And his name is John Mark Carr. So this guy, he already had a lot of, criminal records, and he even ran away from America. He was hiding in Thailand. So this man, he was hiding in Thailand, in Bangkok to be specific. He emailed a very renowned journalist and told him that he was the one behind JonBenét Ramsey's killing. And they became kind of a pen pal, like they were exchanging emails for 4 years. And the journalist did this so as to get all the information and evidences he could get against this person, and later on he would go to the police, which he did. So the Boulder Police Department, they go to Thailand and they find this guy, they get him back to United States and investigate him. And now this investigator, he said that within 18 hours of the investigation, they knew that this guy was faking and was a liar. Also, on further investigation, they could find proofs and evidences that on the date of the crime, he was not even in Colorado, he was in Georgia. But then he was arrested and he was sent to prison because he was a criminal on run. Yeah, so we spoke about like 3 suspects, outsider suspects. There was another suspect, but even he was ruled out because his DNA wouldn't match, but he committed suicide 2 months after the crime incident. I mean, I don't know. And the DNA they found in her underpants, they tried to match it with 1.5 million samples and it wouldn't match any of them, like literally any of them. So a small recap, you guys. You remember that all these suspects, be it the Ramseys or Gary Oliver or Bill or Mark, they all were ruled out because their DNA wouldn't match with the DNA they found in her underpants and on her leggings. Well, now comes another person in the case. Well, if you've heard about O.J. Simpson's case, then you might be aware of this person. He is a very renowned DNA expert. His name is Dr. Henry Lee. So according to Dr. Henry Lee, the DNA found in her underpants could be the DNA that might have been transferred from the manufacturers. And he even showed this on an underpant which was unboxed. So yeah, I mean, imagine that these people, all these 5 to 6 people who were ruled out because their DNA wouldn't match with this one. But guess what? This DNA could be of an innocent manufacturer. Okay, so bring back all the suspects and uncross them. I mean, the case is still out there in the court. There's still a lot of investigation going on. But in 2013, the DA, Colorado DA, that is District Attorney, she ruled out the parents and entire Ramsey family out of the suspicion. They said that the DNA wouldn't match and thus they are not like really suspects. It's quite questionable. I mean, especially after Dr. Henry Lee's statement, we're not sure that the DNA they were using to correspond for, suspicion or not suspicion, it's not valid. We cannot rely on it, right? Quoting Dr. Henry Lee. I mean, it's understandable. But then who did it? Like, if you'll ask me, was it the family? Yeah, it could be a possibility. Remember that amount I asked you all to remember it? I hope you guys did. Anyways, it was $118,000. So this $118,000, I mean, the kidnapper could have asked for $1,500 or $100,000 or maybe $200,000. Why does he have to spare $2,000, right? Well, because coincidentally, this was the same amount, almost the same amount that John Ramsey received as a bonus that year. Well, it got to be someone who knew about this bonus, maybe a colleague, an acquaintance, family, or relative. Now, it could be an outsider because remember that investigator, that homicide expert who retired but then was rehired for this case? He resigned from this case out of frustration because he was damn sure that the police were only investigating to prove the family as the culprit, as the criminals. And he even made a video, I'll put the link in the description. In that video, you can see how easily an outsider could have sneaked inside the house with that broken basement window and nobody would have heard about it. And the theory about, the police, and the part that police came in front of the cameras and said that we couldn't find any footprints. Well, there are pictures from 26 December's morning, and you'll see that the surrounding of the house, it was concrete. There was no snow over there, so obviously no snow, no footprints. So if you'll ask me, a lot of things could have happened. Like, I have two different theories, for each of the theories. Like, if it's an outsider, then I believe that this outsider entered the house when the Ramseys were out to see their friends, to exchange gifts. So he and his friend, like his companion, they sneaked in the house when no one was in there. He went to the study, he found Patricia Ramsey's notepad and pen. They had a lot of time because no one was home, right? I'm repeating again. So they practiced and rewrote the letter, and they were hiding, like they could hide anywhere. These Ramseys were crazy rich. Okay, they could have hid anywhere and nobody in the house would have known. So when everyone were deep asleep, they sneaked in JonBenét Ramsey's room and first covered her mouth with the help of a duct tape, then tied her hand behind her head, cradled her in his arms or her arms, and took her downstairs to the basement. And while going downstairs, they dropped the ransom note. And the next morning, when they heard all the hustle going on upstairs, they probably might have heard the police siren. So they strangled her. When they found the right time, they sneaked out. I mean, that's what my theory is. I don't know who did it. Some days when I wake up and I feel like it's, the parents who did it. And some days I'm like, no, it gotta be someone outside of the family, an intruder or something like that. But it's too difficult to come to a conclusion where the evidences were distorted to so many levels and to such extent. How about you guys tell me your opinions and your theories as to what happened on 25th or 26th of December with JonBenét Ramsey? Tell me about it in the comments down below. Anyways guys, here we come to the end of the story of JonBenét Ramsey. Do not forget to like and share this video and subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon so that every time I'm here, you'll get to know about it. Bye bye.